All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out so everybody can join in here. 1 second. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful, blessed weekend and getting ready for Monday. So, today we're going to be talking about the Wyckoff trading method. So, this is a follower request to essentially, kind of look at this a little bit. So, this should be pretty fun. Pretty interesting stuff. So, before we get started with this, let's review this disclaimer. Everything is going to be for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's take a look and see where we're at with the market here. So bullish, still proven otherwise, right? So the monthly chart, right? Friday actually only closed up 11 cents, but the monthly chart, a few days left of the year, end of the month. So far pretty bullish here on the monthly chart. Nice bullish hammer. Right, weekly chart last week, a little bit of a spinning top at the upper Bollinger Band. Overbought now on the weekly. A close above the upper Bollinger Band with the overbought could be interesting, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But we are again bullish until proven otherwise. So what we can see here, right, is our daily chart. Right, we have multiple. If I zoom out a little bit here for you, multiple upward trend lines. Of course, the macro one from last December, right, this year, a year ago, right, this trend is obviously still plowing up, right? We can see the most recent one after the most recent pullback, right, is continuing up, right? A little bit of a test of it right here, and now we're kind of in this bump and run type style right here. So it's a macro, intermediate, and kind of a micro trend line right here. Everything's still bullish until proven otherwise. So we'll have to see how this trend holds. Now, S&P futures right now are up about 5.75, so we'll see how that holds throughout the night. And let's take a look and see where we're at on our geometric chart. So this has been a fun one, right? We tracked this channel all the way from 2018, right? Up, down, broke down on the December moved down, and then we had a Christmas reversal off of that, came back into the channel, right, tested the top of the channel, back to the pitchfork midpoint line, up to the top of the channel, and then we got to the pitchfork upper median line, right, and then we are working our way up what appears to be the top of this macro pitchfork. So that should be an interesting area. That corresponds to about, the 3,300 area-ish. So we'll see how it handles that area, if we get up to those levels. So that could be pretty interesting as well. In terms of Friday's price action, we had a sharp move down to fade the gap, right? So 15 orb, which broke its way down, and then a quick reversal back up. Stayed under the 15 orb for most of the day, right? And tried to do a little bit of a rally into the close. And once again, these are the levels that we provide for our members. And so really, really helpful stuff, right? When you see that we gap up, you see that nice close below this R1 level right here, right? That implies that it probably wants to test the next level, basically saying it probably wants to fade the gap, right? Which it did, and then it tagged this is what we call a weekly R1 level, bounced off of that and gave a nice move back up to R1, then stayed within the range until the end of the day. So pretty cool stuff there. So good. Good. So this week, once again, we're going to be talking about the Wyckoff trading method. So today, pretty simple stuff. We're just going to go over the intro and his rules of the market. So it's mostly just a conceptual beginning of it, and then we'll get into some techniques that we could use later. So first of all, who is Wyckoff, right? So let's talk about that for a quick second here. So Wyckoff, his name is Richard Wyckoff, okay, and he was a famous stock trader, an investor, and he was born in the late 19th century. Okay, so he was interested in the stock market at an early age, and by the time he was in his 20s, he was able to open up his first brokerage firm. And then later, he authored several books on stock trading, and many are still studied today. So he provided 2 rules. And this is interesting. This is a little bit different than some of the other folks we've talked about in the past, right? We've done a series on Jesse Livermore before, right? We've done Dow theory, we've done Elliott Wave before, and this is a little bit different. So he has 2 core rules. Okay, so the first rule says that the market never behaves the same way. Very interesting. So he says price action will never create a move in exactly the same way that it did in the past. The market is truly unique. And so that is interesting, right? So if we go to the SPX, right, we can see, it's going to be true no matter what, because time is always different, right? So there's always a difference in time, right? And there's always a difference in volume at any particular moment, right? And so it is very rare for anything to be exactly the same. And the reality is that the market is made up of minds, right? It's made up of computers, algorithms that were generated by minds, right? And so there's always new participants, there's old participants, right? So there's always some new thoughts that are going into the market that are changing perspectives and changing points of view on the market. And even though candles may look similar, it is very rare to see anything that is exactly the same. So, but we do know that, of course, this is just, for us, that there are, patterns that repeat themselves and that are very, very similar, right? And we look to, find which ones are profitable over time and can be the most consistent over time, right? So, but anyway, it's a very, very interesting way of looking at it. It's one that really hasn't been addressed before by any of the other folks that we've studied. So that is a very interesting thing. So it's always different. Okay, the second rule that Mr. Wyckoff came up with is related to the first one. Okay, so it states that since every price move is unique, its analytical importance comes when compared to previous price behavior. So it's basically just saying that. So, things are different, but all we can do is basically compare with the past, right? That's why our trend lines work so well, right? We know that if they break down the trend line, right, they form a trend box, break out of those, we would get a move down. We have an upward trend line, right? Breaks above it, breaks above the trend box, right? Works its way up, right? So we have, kind of simple stuff, and we have other great tools that we use too. We use the cloud, we use things like that. And it's just a very interesting principle. It's kind of a different way of looking at it than anything we've talked about before. And I think it's a nice way to see it. It's to say, like, hey, every day I'm going into this, there's always going to be something a little bit different, but if we can apply principles and techniques that are consistent over time, right, we can succeed with those. So hopefully you guys are going to find this one interesting. Tomorrow we're going to talk about his cycle theory and kind of get into that a little bit and kind of talk about and show how that looks at some charts, right? And then we'll get into a couple of concepts and show some practical trading applications for it too this week. So anyway, at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. We'll try to wrap up as early as possible so we can all get a good night's sleep and get started for a brand new week. Guys, New Year's is this week, so market is going to be closed on Wednesday, the 1st. It's still open New Year's Eve, so it'll be a slightly shortened week this week, but I think it's good. We're going to get a little action this week. I think it'll be a little more interesting than it was last week, and then I think next week will be interesting, and then the week following that, right, we have earnings season starting, so I know we're all looking forward to that as well. So to trade some of our techniques for gap and goes and 15 orbs and things like that. So it should be pretty good. Well, anyway, awesome stuff. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. I've got a few chart requests that came through email and Twitter already, so I've got those at the top. So Shirley sent in a few. She sent in a bunch, but I kind of narrowed it down to some that I think that everybody can relate to a little bit here. So Coca-Cola. This is a tough one to trade. It really is, right? So it does move eventually, but this is a tough one for options. I will say that. Because look at it, it can really chop for a long time, and then it gives a move, right? So it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes it to be a little further out of further in the money and a little further out in time for it to behave a little more like the stock. But in general, right now, it's bullish until proven otherwise. It's broken out over some key levels, right? And right now, the only thing it has to get over now is this guy to maybe try a little bit higher. So watch that as a potential resistance point for Coke. Nike is actually on our bullish radar for tomorrow. I like how it closed on Friday. I like how it broke out of this bull pennant that we've been talking about. And I like how it closed over it too bullishly with increased volume. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on Nike tomorrow on the bullish watch list. So that's looking pretty good, even though it is at all-time highs. MasterCard. So the credit card companies have been looking interesting. They've been given some interesting moves, but no major breakout moves, right? So I really like the close on MasterCard on Friday as well. I like how it kind of was really sneaky here and closed above these recent highs, and also had increased volume. So that's definitely going to be on the radar as well. I think Visa, also pretty interesting. Not as good as MasterCard in this one, but it had already broken out over the recent levels on increased volume on Thursday, and so just kind of pulled back a little bit after a test over those levels on Friday. So we'll see if that maybe pulls a little bit back to this prior resistance level for support and then works its way up. And then NVS. Okay, also looking pretty interesting, Novartis. The pharmaceutical companies and biotech and all that stuff has been pretty strong recently. I like the gap over this resistance level right here. Just be careful with this one. It's an ADR, so it does gap a lot between days, right? It's got to get over that 96.31 to really start getting interesting. Good stuff. And then Superstar, Amazon. Amazon, pretty amazing stuff, right? We analyzed this pretty well the other day, and one of the real important things was, right, we had this macro downward trend line right here, right? And then what that did is it formed a trend box, right? And we had this tweezer tops right here off of the 200-day moving average, rejected the 200-day moving average, came back down to the cloud, got its way back up, consolidated a little bit, and then on Thursday gave an amazing move, pushed through those prior resistance levels, right, all the way up to the 200-day moving average. It actually paused at this level a little bit intraday, and then it just thrust above that to get to this next pivot level right here, right? Where it finally got some resistance where all this selling pressure was. So it found resistance basically at prior selling pressure. So that was good. And then what we always expect is a little bit of a pop over a big move day like that. And it did that, and it came right to the other selling pressure area right there and gave a topping tail on Friday. So just be careful with this, right? It may consolidate for a little bit. It may even come back and test the 200-day moving average. It may chop around in the middle of the range, test 50% of the range of this big candle, right? And or it could hang out in here a little bit. We'll see if it can form like a little pennant or something like that, and then work its way up from there. But just be careful with it over the next couple days, especially this week. It may give some sharp moves intraday one way or the other. Experience and thoughts. What's happening? Good evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Papa, what's going on, Papa Mentos? What's happening? LE. Let's take a look at LE. Your favorite. So this is kind of doing what I was thinking Amazon might do. So it's basically just consolidating this area right here. A little bit of a down move, testing some of the support levels right here. But again, key resistance right now is that 18 kind of 40-ish area. So see if you can get over that, and then your next level up is at 1880. So seems to be still a little bit constructive, right? Just be careful. It was kind of a nasty 180 candle on Friday. Okay, UPS. UPS has just kind of been, doing its thing. It's been chopping around, right? We had a bear flag right here that moved it down, and then it's just been kind of, testing some levels. It's really just been jumping all over the place. So it's been risky, just kind of macro-wise with its, dealings with Amazon and stuff like that. So it's been a little on edge, but it is holding cloud support right now, which is right here at this, 118.50 level. So see if it continues to hold that, and then maybe it can get out of the cloud over that 120 level. And then of course it's cohort X. They've definitely been getting Amazoned a lot, right? So they've generally been pretty much downtrending for a long time. It's stayed below the 200-day moving average for quite a while. It's trying to get its way back up there again. It's upper shadow at resistance right here from earnings, that gap resistance. So see if that gets any downside follow through. So that has been on the bearish radar for a little bit, but let's see if that gap resistance holds. Good stuff. Experience and thoughts. PayPal. Good old PayPal. So PayPal has been pretty hot. Lots of call activity here. It's gotten back over the 200-day moving average. Only problem is it's having trouble closing over this, this little horizontal channel right here. So it got over it on Friday and then came back in sharply. So let's see if it can continue to build and get above those, and then potentially test these other levels, these 111, 112 levels. Apple. How can we not look at Apple? Apple's just been super strong, right? All the way up, right? Macro trends up, everything's up, Apple, right? But big move on this one, guys. We have a macro pitchfork right here, which it pulled off of recently. So you can see where the pitchfork went from this low, those pivots, and came all the way up. It rejected that level on Friday. So let's see if that gets any follow through. It may come back and test the trend line eventually, but we'll see. If it gets above it and builds above it, it can continue to work, right? I mean, it's just they'll probably keep this thing propped up until the end of January. So, but we'll see what they have in store. It had some interesting down moves the other day. Okay, so let's see. Sorry about that. All right, Roku. Okay, so Roku has been interesting. This has been on our bearish radar for a bit, but right now I just drew a kind of a macro triangle on this thing, right, since its recent highs and lows. So it kind of seems to be consolidating into this range right here. It's been holding the cloud as support for a bit, right? I do like how it came down off of the upper shadow a little bit. That made for a nice technical move on Friday, and we'll just see if it kind of holds this 137 area of support, and then maybe tries to get back out of the cloud. So if it does come down, it may get back to this 132 area and retest the bottom of that triangle. So that should be pretty interesting as well. Okay, and Amazon we just looked at. Upper shadow right here, right? So huge move right there. So a little bit of resistance on that that breakdown level right there. So we'll see if it consolidates in this area. If it can get above that, it might give another move up, but we'll see what they have in store for that one. A lot of bullish call activity and stuff like that going on with it as well. Shopify. Recent all-time highs inside day too, and holding this upward trend. So we'll see if it continues to hold this trend, and then continue to work its way up. So it's been pretty bullish. So Disney, yeah, I'm liking Disney here. I like what it's been doing. I like how it's kind of holding this this base, right, which is about 50% of that big candle right there. I like how it's approaching this downward trend line. I think that if it could work its way up, right, it can get it up, pop up, and maybe fill a closing gap and maybe test the top of that fib fan line. Good stuff. Manesh, what's going on? Roku, Shop, and Facebook. Yeah, we just reviewed those, but we'll take another look at it. So Roku kind of hanging out in this triangle right here. We'll see if it gets any follow through the downside, but it may hold it as support. Shop, of course, again holding the upper trend line here, and then Facebook. Facebook's really interesting here, guys. So holding this resistance level, right, major resistance right there, is it kind of that's its kind of line in the sand here to get a little bit farther into its gap from its all-time highs. So if it can push above these levels right here, right, it could get strong and work its way up there. So I will say, macro-wise, their Oculus sold out over the holidays and is on back order until February. So that might mean something for the earnings report coming up. Good stuff. Wendy, what's going on? Good morning. Hope everything's going great in Singapore. Hope you're having a great day. Heather, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Matthew, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Ernesto, what's up? Good to see you. Netflix, let's take a look. Yeah, so Netflix was putting a little bit of a pennant right here at this major resistance level, right? So right into the gap, right? So little resistance here is forming a little bit of a pennant. Double inside day came down off that and pushed down off the double inside day right to the 200-day moving average, but put in a lower shadow right there. So it could be interesting. It could give some surprises to the upside. Again, it's got to get over these resistance levels and obviously over that double inside day high there. And then Disney, we just looked at again. I like how it's consolidating here in this kind of pennant pattern. Definitely downward trend. I'd like to see it get over that, close above it, and then try to get some increased volume and work its way back up again. So good stuff. Sumit, what's happening? Citi, let's take a look. Yeah, so Citi's been pretty good. We liked it the other day off of the double inside day, gave a nice push up. I love the increased volume. It's just, kind of came down a little bit, but it's still holding this upward trend line. Costco. Yeah, so Costco's, just been chopping around a lot since the last earnings report. Didn't have too much stellar activity after that, but it's really, really been consolidating in this range. Trying to get over this recent resistance level. If we can get over that, we might be able to see it try to pop out of the cloud. And then Walmart has just been really consolidating since earnings. It's below the cloud, okay. So, but it's trying to tag it. So just see if it can get strong. If money flows into retail, Costco and Walmart would be definitely ones to look at. Trina, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. iSurge, ISRG. Tutive Surgical, yeah. So it's been kind of above this, kind of resistance, prior resistance area right here. Seems to be trying to hold a little bit upper shadow. Just see if it could, close bullishly above this 601.60 level, and then with some increased volume, it might try to work its way up a little bit. And then TTD, inside day on Friday. So started to see this a lot in this sector. Again, if it takes the inside day up and closes bullishly above this resistance level here, it might take another stab at the all-time highs. Wendy, into. Let's take a look. Yes, this is an interesting one. This is a kind of one, if you get in right, you can get a good swing on it, but it's a tough one to day trade. Sometimes some weird tax news that comes out on it, stuff like that. But resistance levels right here, right? If you can get there, right, your next level is the closing gap above. We had an inside day on Friday, and it's about to come out of the cloud. So its behavior here is going to be really important. 200-day moving average is right here. So lots of key levels here. Let's see if we can get above that this recent high here of 268.95. And MAR. Again, still working its way up here from this recent trend line we had. Pretty impressive stuff. A couple little pullbacks on it, a little bit of a bump and run type style right here. So we'll see, but recent highs. So see if it can hold, right? If not, it may come back down, test trend lines, open gap right here. So that's going to be a key level for it to try to hold its support. But if it gets above it, you might get a little pop on it, something like that. PGNY. Okay, yeah. So looks like a little new one on the market here. So we've got a recent low, hit highs, right? Kind of breaking down here. So we're in the trend box right now, right, from the all-time highs. So, but it is working its way up the trend box. So, it looks bullish, still proven otherwise, right? So inside here, but again, anything could happen inside the trend box. And Baidu. Yeah, so Baidu's interesting. Again, having trouble getting over that resistance spot right there, okay? A little bit of a different player than Baba, which I'll pull up right now. Baba's been pretty intense. Lots of upward movement right here. Big reversal day on Friday, so just be careful with those names. Good, Jay, what's going on? Hello. SPCE, there's a nice one to look at. This one's been pretty active, right? So really a lot of choppy nonsense forever, and then it started to get going again, and now it's just become really hot, right? It's getting a lot of call activity. Who knows if it's going to be a buyout candidate or something like that, but inside day, let's see if we can get over this, this prior day's high right here, close above that, and if it does, right, we might see another stab at, those levels up there. Nice. Sumit, APA. Yeah, APA has been pretty active recently, right? So it's kind of looks like it's forming a little bit of a kind of a bull flag here. So see how it handles those levels. I like how it's at the 200-day moving average. If we could break out above here, right, we might see a move up to test those levels there. So pretty big moves recently, though. Pretty impressive stuff. And then KMI. Yep. Similar type stuff, right? Just broke down below this upward trend line right here. So see if it pushes below there. It does have a little bit of prior resistance to support, but below there, right, may test that kind of 2075 level. Wendy, yeah, LSCC. Excuse me. Yeah, breaking down a little bit here, right? So it couldn't get over those resistance levels and had a nasty day on Friday. Increased volume with a very, very bearish candle. It's got some support levels right here, but below that, it could start to test a little bit lower. So it's looking pretty weak right here, but it's at some support. So something to look at. Shop. Again, inside day and continue to hold its trend. So still looking bullish here. PDD. PDD has been on a lot of radars recently. It's right at this resistance level. I like the increased volume. It's the close here. The high was 39.33, so it closed below that. But it would be interesting if it pushed above that out of the cloud. It could get a little pop. GS. Yep, at some resistance up here. So just rejected those areas on Friday. So see if it can close above there bullishly and try to work its way up into earnings season. And then Diz. Now downward trend line right here. So the thought is that it's holding right these kind of this support area right here. So if we can get above this trend line, right, we'll look for a bullish close over any breakout moves and then increase volume and see if it can work its way up. Good stuff. Session, what's going on? NetEase, NTES. Okay, yeah. So this is looking pretty interesting here. So we have this blue here, right? We're in a little bit of a trend box. So just watch this. But it looks like it's trying to get out of there. Inside day, if we can get over these, this 310 level, 310.60, close bullishly above that, may try to work its way back up. AMAT. Had a good write-up this weekend in Barron's. We'll see if that gives it any, strength. We do have a macro pitchfork right here, which is holding its resistance. Plus, we have these recent highs. So see if we can get over those levels. But it might be gearing up. Okay, lots of... a good write-up this weekend. Snap. Snap's trying. I love how it broke out of the cloud. I like the inside day. I like it for Monday. So we'll definitely continue to keep an eye on this one. Team. It's also had some call activity. Team. Inside day. It's out of this macro downward channel right here. So let's see if we can get over the cloud. See if we can get over the 2-day moving average, and then over these guys. And CMCSA. Yeah, that was a nice one. That was from our weekly chart, right? It had inside week up last week, right? Back over the weekly Bollinger Band. And we're right into the cloud right here into some resistance, right? So it closed like a bit of a move right there. And then we got a couple levels right here. So see if we can kind of start to climb its way out of there. Seneca, good evening. What's going on? W. Hope you had a great weekend. W, inside day. Okay, so a little bit of resistance above. But if we can get above that, we can start working on the cloud. And Etsy. Rejected by the cloud, but if we can get over the cloud, right, that's some resistance levels right there, and then you got your gap resistance right here, right, and then it can start hopefully working its way up, trying to get out of the cloud up there. Test Felon, what's going on? LK? Oh yeah, this one's been hot. So it's a wild one to trade, right? But it's it can be fun, right? Big upper shadow on Friday, blasted through the prior highs here, gave a nice little move, and then pulled back in. So that gives it, basically fresh levels to work with. But, if it stays contained with those levels, you still might see some nice intraday moves. And it does continue to hold trend here. So let's go. There's your highs. There's your highs. There's your trend line. So, oops. That one. There. So, yeah, still, bullish still proven otherwise. So just watch out for that upper shadow. Sean, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Domo. Domo, arigato. Oh, no, see, I lost my chart there. Okay, there we go. So Domo. Yeah, interesting. This one has big macro trend line down. right? Slowly worked its way up nicely out of the cloud, right? Had earnings, popped its way up right here. So now it's kind of contending with that resistance level right there, right? So it's got these guys, right? So I mean, it's doing stuff. It's definitely doing. It's holding, right? So look at this ascending triangle. See if we can get. The key is to get over these levels here, then over the 200-day moving average, right? And then we'll see where if it could build from there. But so far so good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Harry, what's going on? Microsoft, MSFT. Yeah, so Microsoft's basically been doing its job, right? It had this nasty horizontal channel for the longest time, broke out of it, then it got into our this upward channel right here, right? It's kind of been holding that as support, right, and bounces off of it when it gets to it. So the recent bounce off of it has led its way up from 149 all the way up to 159, so a slow 10-point move up. It did close above the resistance levels. It wasn't a really bullish candle, but it did close above it. So that's something to keep an eye on and see if it could build from there. Good stuff. Great chart request tonight, guys. Yeah, really looking forward to this week. We do have a shortened week because Wednesday we're going to be off, but I think there's going to be some good trading this week. It should be pretty interesting. I think we'll see some news and stuff like that too, just to spice the market up a little bit. We'll see. Again, futures are up going into tomorrow, so we'll see if that holds overnight. And from there we'll just go with it. So I hope everybody has a wonderful night tonight and a great night's sleep and has a lot of rest for tomorrow. Unless of course you're in Singapore, I hope you have a great fun day today, and then we'll see you this evening. And anyway, good stuff. So if you're new here, definitely subscribe on YouTube. We do this every market night, so you can always pop in whenever and send a chart request out, or check out what topic we're talking about, and also be sure to check out the links in the description. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you soon.